After his son is brutally murdered and his wife is kidnapped by terrifying creatures known as the Kroogs, Farmer is determined to get revenge and sets out on a desperate journey to rescue her. Hello everyone, today on Film Decoded, we're recapping In the Name of the King from 2007. Get ready for a medieval fantasy filled with magic, monsters, and plenty of battles. So without further ado, let's jump right into today's recap. The story begins in the Kingdom of Ebb, where the powerful mage Galien pays a visit to Muriel, hoping to spend some time alone with her. Madly in love, Muriel passionately kisses him, convinced their feelings are genuine. What she doesn't realize is that Galien is secretly studying the magical bloodline flowing through her family. As their romantic moment continues, the dark ritual he performs begins disturbing the very nature around them. Meanwhile, Muriel's father, Merrick, senses the magical disturbance and immediately sets out to investigate. He soon discovers that Galien is using forbidden magic to control an army of savage beasts known as the Kroogs. Elsewhere, we meet Farmer, an orphan who lives a peaceful life working the land alongside his wife, Solana, and their young son, Zeph. Even though they're happily married, Farmer has never actually said the words, "I love you," to Solana. Their quiet life is often interrupted by Farmer's best friend, Norik, who tells him that the king's army is recruiting soldiers and paying well. Farmer refuses without hesitation. He'd rather live a simple, boring life if it means staying with his family. Meanwhile, back at the royal castle, King Conrad receives alarming news. The Kroogs have begun attacking nearby villages, and even a royal guard has been killed. His nephew, Fallow, questions whether creatures once believed to be peaceful could really be responsible, but Conrad suspects dark magic is behind it all. On what starts as an ordinary day, Solana and Zeph travel to visit family in the nearby village, while Farmer stays home tending the fields. Suddenly, he senses something is terribly wrong. A group of Kroogs has invaded his farm. To everyone's surprise, Farmer reveals remarkable combat skills, cutting down the creatures with ease. At the same time, Norik's property comes under attack, and Farmer rushes over to help. Fighting side by side, the two friends defeat the monsters, although Norik's barn is completely destroyed in the process. After the battle, Farmer worries that even more Kroogs may be heading toward the village. He borrows a horse from Norik to prepare for whatever comes next. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Muriel is training with a sword under Commander Teresh. Impressed by her talent, Teresh admits she's skilled enough to fight, but refuses to let her join the army simply because she's a woman. Their lesson is interrupted when Fallow arrives with urgent news. Kroogs are raiding nearby settlements. Despite the obvious tension between Teresh and Fallow, there's no time to argue. Preparations for war begin immediately. Back in the village, Solana enjoys a peaceful afternoon with her father and son atop the watchtower. But the calm doesn't last long. She spots a massive horde of Kroogs rushing toward the village. Without wasting a second, she hides Zeph and rings the warning bell. Chaos erupts as terrified villagers scramble for safety, while the Kroogs storm through the streets. Farmer and Norik arrive just in time, fighting bravely alongside the desperate villagers. Desperate to find Solana, Farmer learns she's at the tower and rushes there with Norik and Bastion. But by the time they arrive, the Kroogs have already captured her. Far away in his fortress, Galien controls the invading Kroogs through dark magic, even summoning terrifying dark knights to reinforce the assault. As Farmer reaches the burning tower, he fears the worst. Instead, he surprises even himself by defeating one of the Dark Knights in combat, something that leaves Galien genuinely shocked. But Galien isn't finished yet. He immediately takes control of another Dark Knight and sends it to attack Solana's parents. Farmer reaches the house just as Kroogs surround it. Inside, the Dark Knight hunts for young Zeph, who hides inside a wardrobe. The boy manages to escape, but the relentless knight pursues him, determined to deliver the child to Galien for a horrific fate. Meanwhile, Bastion arrives at the house only to discover the heartbreaking sight of his parents lying dead. Farmer eventually finds Zeph, but he's too late. Holding his son in his arms, he's forced to face the most devastating loss of his life. With his objective complete, Galien orders the Kroogs to retreat, taking dozens of prisoners with them, including Solana. After burying Zeph alongside his grandparents, Farmer, Bastion, and Norik struggle to cope with their grief. But Norik points out one important detail. Solana's body was never found. There's still hope she's alive. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Fallow confronts Galien, demanding that he speed up their plan to seize the throne. Galien, however, is far more interested in something else. The mysterious farmer who somehow managed to defeat one of his Dark Knights. A few hours later, King Conrad arrives at the ruined village looking for new recruits. Farmer refuses his offer, arguing that the king already has more than enough soldiers to defend himself. Norik and Bastion, however, decide to join Farmer's search for Solana. Before they leave, Merrick notices something strangely familiar about Farmer. Sensing there's more to him than meets the eye, he urges Farmer to help the king. Farmer ignores the advice, determined to focus only on rescuing his wife. As they travel, the three friends reach a broken bridge stretching across a deep ravine. Using nothing but their belts as makeshift ropes, they carefully climb across. Farmer reaches the other side safely, while Norik and Bastion lose their grip and plunge into the river below. Fortunately, neither of them is seriously hurt. Back at the royal castle, King Conreid is furious to find only a single careless guard protecting the entrance, while Fallow openly disrespects the throne. The king orders Teresh to remove his nephew immediately. Fallow reacts with anger, but Teresh can't strike back because of Fallow's royal status. Later, after confronting Muriel in his endless pursuit of greater power, Galleon finally reveals his true colors. Furious, he throws her out, exposing the darkness that has been hiding beneath his charming facade. The next morning, Fallow tries to make amends with King Conreid. He apologizes for his behavior and promises to change. Conreid eventually accepts the apology and even allows him to join him for breakfast. Later, the king and Teresh discuss the Krug's increasingly unusual behavior and begin planning their next move. Muriel seizes the opportunity to confront Conreid, frustrated that everyone keeps treating her like she's a child who deserves no answers. Just as the king is about to explain everything, he suddenly becomes dizzy and collapses. Sensing that something is terribly wrong, Merrick rushes back to the castle. At the same time, Fallow also begins feeling ill and secretly seeks out Galleon. The mage calmly reveals that he poisoned King Conreid's breakfast. He possesses the only antidote and hands it over to Fallow, but only after humiliating him and reminding him exactly who truly holds the power. Merrick arrives just in time and immediately begins preparing an antidote. Meanwhile, Teresh reports that Fallow has fled with 2 entire armies, making it painfully clear he's working alongside Galleon. As Teresh struggles to understand how Galleon became so powerful, Merrick visits Muriel. She tearfully admits how close she became to the mage. Merrick confronts her with the consequences of her choices and the terrible damage they've caused the kingdom. Overwhelmed with guilt, Muriel breaks down in tears. Outside the castle, Fallow takes command of the soldier. Anyone who questions him is silenced with brutal violence, and he demands absolute loyalty under threat of death. Meanwhile, Farmer, Bastion, and Norik lose their way inside a mysterious forest. Before they know it, they're caught in traps and left hanging upside down by a group of forest nymphs. Once the nymphs realize the 3 men mean no harm, they set them free on one condition: leave the forest immediately. Having no idea where they are, the trio gladly accepts the nymphs' guidance to the forest's edge. The nymphs make it clear they have no intention of getting involved in mankind's conflict. As night falls, the 3 friends emerge from the forest and discover the Krugs transporting prisoners back to their lair. Acting quickly, Norik and Bastion disguise themselves as Krugs, allowing Farmer to slip inside unnoticed in search of Solana. Unfortunately, the disguise doesn't fool everyone. Norik and Bastion are eventually exposed and captured. Farmer finally finds Solana among the prisoners, but before he can free her, a dark night overpowers him. Back at the castle, Merrick informs King Conreid of Fallow's betrayal. Without hesitation, the king orders the army to prepare for war, deciding to personally lead the campaign himself. Meanwhile, Solana wakes up beside Norik and Bastion, and the 3 mourn the loved ones they've lost. Even so, Norik never loses hope. He promises that Farmer will come for them. Not far away, Farmer regains consciousness tied to a tree. A dark knight stands nearby, serving as Galleon's messenger. Through him, Galleon admits he's fascinated by Farmer because, unlike everyone else, he can't read his mind. Curious about who or what Farmer really is, Galleon demands answer. But Farmer has none to give. Frustrated, Galleon tightens the rope around Farmer's neck, determined to hang him. Just in time, Merrick senses the magical disturbance and arrives to save him, sharing a portion of his own magic to restore Farmer's strength. Back at the castle, Muriel struggles with the guilt of giving Galleon access to her magic. She wants to end everything, but her closest friend stops her, reminding her that giving up would only make things worse. Determined to make up for her mistakes, Muriel finally chooses to fight for what's right, making her father proud. She puts on a suit of armor and rides out to join the war. Meanwhile, Fallow gathers his army inside a Krug camp, fully committing himself to Galleon's dark alliance. As events unfold, Merrick brings Farmer to the royal camp and reveals an unbelievable truth. Farmer is actually King Conreid's long-lost son. Merrick explains that years ago, after the massacre at Ebpass, Norik found a lone child wandering through the ruins. At the time, only one child had disappeared from that region, the missing prince. Farmer can hardly believe it and immediately walks away, insisting that rescuing Solana is all that matters. But Merrick confronts him, explaining that winning the war is the only way to save both Solana and the kingdom's future. After a long moment of reflection, Farmer reluctantly agrees to fight alongside the royal army. Soon after, Teresh approaches Fallow one last time, hoping to settle things without bloodshed. He brands Fallow a traitor and declares that anyone fighting under his command will be treated the same. Fallow only laughs, convinced he's already the new king and untouchable. Then, to everyone's surprise, King Conread appears alive, proving him wrong. The soldiers who had followed Fallow immediately abandon him and return to the king's side, preparing for battle. Teresh is stunned to see Farmer joining the royal forces. Before anyone has time to process it, Fallow's Krug army arrives. The king's archers wipe out the first wave, then the swordsmen charge forward as the battlefield erupts into chaos. The fighting becomes brutal, and Gallion makes things even worse by unleashing underground Krugs and his terrifying Dark Knights. While the royal archers pick off the Krugs operating the enemy catapults, King Conread joins the battle himself. The Dark Knights immediately target him. No matter how many blows the soldiers land, the monsters refuse to fall. But Farmer is different. He cuts his way through the battlefield, reaches the Dark Knights, and takes them down one after another with ease. The distraction gives Fallow the perfect opening to shoot King Conread in the chest. Even wounded, the king refuses to retreat until Merrick orders the guards to carry him away. Fallow quickly withdraws, and Farmer tries to chase him, only to be stopped by yet another Dark Knight. He has no choice but to stay and fight. Grabbing the monster's horse, Farmer pulls himself up, reaches the rider, and kills him as well. The royal army ultimately wins the battle, but Gallion isn't concerned. To him, they're simply delaying the inevitable. Nearby, Muriel uses her magical gift to sense which path she should follow and realizes a Dark Knight is tracking her. She rides deep into the forest. A short time later, Fallow and the few soldiers he has left arrive there as well, planning to return to the now nearly defenseless castle. Suddenly, they stop in their tracks after finding a Dark Knight hanging lifeless from a tree. A little farther ahead, Muriel is calmly waiting. Fallow thinks he's found the perfect hostage, but the moment he approaches, the forest comes alive. Vines lash out in every direction. It was a trap all along. The nymphs capture Fallow's entire squad within seconds. Panicked, Fallow swings his sword at Muriel, but she easily deflects the attack. A nymph grabs Muriel with a massive vine and pulls her to safety, while Fallow desperately tries to escape, only to discover he's trapped behind the bodies of his own men. The nymphs capture him alive, and Muriel calmly announces that he's coming with them. Inside Gallion's fortress, the Krugs arrive with all of their prisoners. The cages are opened, and Bastion immediately starts a fight alongside Norik. During the chaos, Solana escapes with another prisoner, but the poor man is killed moments later. Bastion catches up with the women, and together they search the corridors for a way out. Unfortunately, the Krugs quickly find them and drag everyone back into captivity. Back at the royal camp, King Conrad's condition rapidly worsens. Merrick calls Farmer over so the king can speak to him one last time. Conrad repeats a phrase about courage and hard work that Farmer had heard years before, proving without a doubt that he truly is the prince. The king explains he only ever shared those words with his son. He tells Farmer that his skill in battle shows he'll become a worthy ruler, but what truly matters is his kindness, his knowledge of the land, and the way he cares for his people, the animals, and the kingdom itself. Deeply moved, Farmer holds his father's hand as Conrad peacefully accepts his fate and passes away. Outside the tent, Teresh welcomes Muriel back and notices she's brought Fallow with her. He immediately frees Fallow from the nymphs and challenges him to an honorable duel for the king's sake. The fight isn't even close. Teresh completely outclasses him. Just as victory seems certain, news arrives that King Conrad has died. Fallow instantly declares himself the new king, convinced no one can touch him now. He begins barking orders at the soldiers, but Merrick interrupts by presenting Farmer before everyone, revealing that he is Conrad's true son, and therefore the rightful king. Merrick publicly accuses Fallow of murdering Conrad. The soldiers immediately place Fallow under arrest, and one by one, the entire army kneels before Farmer as their new king. Back at Gallion's fortress, the sorcerer discovers that Solana is among the prisoners. Realizing she can be used to lure Farmer into a trap, he approaches her in a disturbingly calm manner. Using his magic, Gallion also discovers that Solana is pregnant. Back at the royal camp, the kingdom gives King Conrad a proper funeral before preparing for the final battle. Muriel once again asks to join the army, and this time Farmer proudly accepts her as one of his soldiers. She also introduces him to unexpected new allies, the nymphs. Normally, they refuse to involve themselves in human wars, but the Krugs have started invading their forest as well, giving them every reason to fight. Soon afterward, Farmer leads the united army toward Gallion's fortress. The Dark Wizard summons a violent storm, making the battle even more dangerous for the human forces. As the Krugs clash with the royal guards and the nymphs, Merrick leads Farmer around the mountains to reveal a hidden entrance into Gallion's stronghold. Merrick then teleports inside and confronts Gallion personally. Once close friends, the two remaining great mages of the kingdom now face each other as enemies. Their duel sends swords flying through the air under the control of powerful magic. But Gallion ultimately overpowers him, using the magic he stole from Muriel to stab Merrick and leave him to die alone. Outside, a nymph helps Farmer swing across a massive cliff using a rope, giving him access to the secret entrance. At the same moment, Muriel senses her father's death and teleports into the fortress to say goodbye. With his final breath, Merrick transfers the last of his magic to his daughter. Deep inside the caves, Bastion manages to rip the chains from the walls and rallies several prisoners to fight back against the Kroogs, while the others make their escape. Farmer pushes deeper into the fortress until he finally finds Solana. Waiting for him is Galleon. Solana tries to run, but Galleon freezes her in place with magic. Then he draws his sword and faces Farmer. Realizing Farmer is the superior swordsman, Galleon abandons a fair fight and begins hurling furniture through the air while floating out of reach. Outside, Teresh and the nymphs struggle as more Dark Knights join the battle. Farmer eventually disarms Galleon and wounds him, but the sorcerer retaliates by trapping him inside a magical whirlwind of flying books before reclaiming his sword for the killing blow. At the last possible second, Muriel arrived. She uses her restored magic to save Farmer and freeze Galleon in place. Seeing her chance, Solana grabs Farmer's sword and drives it into Galleon, avenging the death of their son. Freed at last, Farmer steps forward and finishes Galleon once and for all. With the Dark Wizard dead, every Dark Knight vanishes instantly, and the Kroogs, no longer under his control, peacefully scatter into the wilderness. The prisoners and the royal army finally realize the nightmare is over. Farmer and Solana embrace in victory with a kiss, and at long last, Farmer tells her the words she's waited so long to hear, "I love you."